Hello, I've been working on a new design for a rabbit farm, and I was seeing something strange in how the rabbits were spawning. Like they were spawning outside the area which I thought they were supposed to spawn in. I just didn't fully understand how the spawning worked, and I couldn't find any good documentation or video on how the spawning works, so I decided to do some experiments to try to figure this out. I am running Minecraft Java version in 1.15.1, and this is a single player world, and I am in creative, and I'm using a few mods. I'm using MiniHUD and QuickCarpet, and I will have the links to them in the description below. So here is my testing platform. I am outside the spawn chunks, and I've marked out an area which is 21 by 21 chunks of grassland in Y level 1, and this is a desert biome. And here I have 17 by 17 where I have fenced out the chunks. So if I put the chunk borders using F3 and G, you can see that I have like these 2 extra chunks on the outside, just to be sure. And then if I stand in the middle where the cross is, I have 8 chunks in each direction. And the blue line here is using MiniHUD despawning spear, and I can show you how I do this by pressing H and C to go into the configuration and into shapes, despawn sphere, and I have configured it so it only shows a single layer on Y, layer 2, and I put the set here while I was in the middle on the cross down here, and then I only get this one line to show me the sphere, which is then 128 blocks away from the center. I currently have the game paused by using the tick freeze command. I also have the mob cap showing on my screen just above the toolbar. To get that, I use the following command. You can see in my chat if you want to use it to subscribe to the mob cap. And the green number 0 and 10 shows the mob cap 10 for the passive mobs, and there are 0 mobs currently. And now I'm going to unfreeze the game, tick freeze again, and the game runs normally, and then we're just going to watch this number 0 and 10 to see when the mobs spawn in. And here they go. And I'm going to freeze the game as soon as this happens. 255 rabbits, even though the mob cap is only 10. And now I'm going to look at the location of the rabbits. Where do they spawn? And here we have a few close by. And what I have been doing is just marking them with green glass to show where they spawn in. And what I'm interested in is how near the player they spawn. Like here, I'm gonna mark this one. And you can see I have been marking in, and there is a circle here around the player where no rabbits are spawning. And no mobs should spawn in 24 blocks away from the player. And this orange glass here shows the 24 block mark from the center. And you can see there is like a circle here. There are a few that spawn maybe on the boundary or just inside, but they are usually a part of a group spawning. And the other thing I'm interested in is how far do they spawn? And do they spawn inside this blue boundary or outside? And as you can see from the green dots, they are spawning outside. And that was what was confusing me when I was testing this first. So these are all inside. I'm gonna mark them here. Let's look if we can find any rabbits that have spawned outside. These are also inside. Mark them. It doesn't look like there have been any that have spawned outside the blue line this time around. Here are 2 that are outside. Just outside. And oops, rabbits say in this setup usually spawn in a group of 4. And here are 2 within and 2 outside. These are both inside. Gonna mark them. But all the others are inside. And those here in the middle area, I only mark the chunks where there's been some spawning. And you can see that nearly all chunks have some rabbits spawned in them. Here is one chunk that I haven't seen any rabbits spawn in. But I think nearly all of the others have rabbits. Let's just run this test again. So I'm going to go into the center. I'm gonna kill all the rabbits with this command, and then I'm gonna delete all the items with this command. Then I unfreeze the game and look at the mob cap. It's 0 now, and when it fills, I will freeze the game again. So here they spawn in, freeze it, 245 this time around. And none are within this 24 block area around the player. So let's look at the outside. These are all within. Here are some at the boundary. And well, one thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna mark these especially because I was reading about non-entity processing chunks. So we're going to see if these rabbits can move if they are so far from the player, and here at the boundary, both within the blue line and like this one outside the blue line. So I'm gonna mark this with an orange. Okay, this is the first time I have seen rabbits outside these 8x8 chunks. 8x8, I mean 17x17. More than 8 chunks away from the player. So this can happen, but as you can see, they spawn as a part of a group, and these 2 are within. And I'm gonna just count this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, these are within this group spawning rule. So if this was a first rabbit to spawn, these can be part of the rule. But now we know they can move outside that area. Here are a few that are inside, but in this outer edge of this spawning circle. Here are 4 of them outside. Here are also a few. Also gonna mark these. Okay, here are also. Okay, then we're come a full circle. I'm going to go into the middle and unfreeze the game. And then I'm going to wait for 5 minutes and freeze it again and look at if the rabbits have moved. So I'm going to unfreeze. The game runs normally. Then I'm just going to put on a timer and wait for 5 minutes. Okay, now 5 minutes are up and I'm going to freeze the game again. The game is paused. And let's just look at the rabbits here furthest away, which are marked with the orange glass. Here one of them has moved and these two have moved. These have not moved. These have not moved. Here's one that has moved. Two of them have moved. And these have not moved. But these have also moved. So what we know from this test is that even if they are this far away, then there we get a wandering traitor. Yeah, well, from the test, we can see that they will move even if they are far away. None of the mobs have despawned, even if they are this far away. And also another thing we can learn from this test, that rabbits, they spawn further away than 128 blocks, but there are only 2 occasions that they do not spawn in a chunk that is within 128. So as we can see here, this chunk has a blue line running across it. But here is one rabbit at a spawn and there is no blue line inside this chunk. But this is part of a group of these 4. And these 2 are both inside the chunk where the blue line crosses. So that might be the reason for this one. Let's continue. You can see here is also a blue line inside this chunk. And also in this one, these are outside, but they're inside the chunk, which has a blue line in it. This rabbit is within a chunk that has a blue line in it. Also part of a group. This one also. There are only 2 occasions where you go outside the chunk, and these here 2 are a part of such a pattern, but they are part of a group which probably started inside this chunk. So we have found a rule, but I'm gonna just take care of this wandering traitor for a moment. And then we can look at other test cases. But what if we go up to like 130? Will the rabbits keep spawning this when I'm up in the sky? So let's test that. So I'm at 100, 120, let's say 130. And I'm gonna make a new spear. I had one here, but I'm gonna configure it and set it here. And enable it. So this is how it looks like. And now we just have to unfreeze the game. And wait to see if something spawns in. And we freeze it again because now we have 251 rabbits. So where do they spawn? Just gonna go back to the bottom and okay. They are spawning here in the center, closer than before. We can see that here. I'm just going to remove the circle again. Here are more of them that are closer to the center, but do they spawn as far away? Yes, they do. They spawn all the way to the edge as before. Here they are, more of them. And even outside here, we again see a pattern where they are spawning outside of a chunk that has a boundary. I'm gonna just mark these quickly. But as you can see, they are part of a group where some of them are inside. So these 3 chunks are all inside. This one is outside, but if this is a start of the group, then it's not unusual to see something like this. So the height of the player does not matter in the spawning. So it is chunk based, but in an area which is the chunks that are within 128 blocks of the player. But does the render distance have an effect on the spawning? I currently have my render distance at 16, but let's move this down to 8 and see what happens. And there are no mobs and the game is paused. I'm gonna unpause the game and wait for the mobs. And here they spawn in, 202 rabbits. And let's see their location. Are they as far away? There are a few here, but yes, here they are. Not as many. And there are no outside, but there are close by, like in this chunk. So I'm gonna do this test again. It's not obvious. Maybe I should move the render distance down even some more. Gonna start by killing all the rabbits and getting rid of the items and unfreeze the game and then just freeze it again. Change my render distance down to, let's say, 5 chunks. And then unfreeze. Let's see how this works. Only 48 mobs, so there is a clear difference in the number of mobs. Let's go here over to the line and yeah, so I think we can say that the rendering distance does affect the spawning. The spawning is not spawning as far away. Here is a few, but they are within these 5 chunks. So this clearly affects the spawning. But what if I move the render distance up quite high? Let's go up to 24 chunks. I have to remove these rabbits here. the items that they drop, and then gonna unfreeze the game. The mocap goes down to 0, and then we just have to watch to see when the mocap goes up again and freeze then. Here we go, 264, the game is paused. Nothing within 24 blocks, but let's see if there are more of them outside. This is 16 to 17 chunks away, that it's 21. So I'm interested in this green area here on the outside. And I am not seeing any rapids in that area, even if I have moved the rendering distance higher than 16. One thing I read somewhere about passive mob spawning is that they need a light level of 9 or above for spawning. I have stopped the daylight circle here, so there is always noon here, or well, morning probably, and the light level is 15. But what if I say time set midnight? Will that affect the spawning? So let's just unfreeze the game. As we can see, there are no mobs, passive mobs, and I'm in a peaceful, so there will be nothing but passive mobs here, and only rapids, as I am in the desert. And as you can see, there are 213 rapids that have spawned. So light level does not affect the rapid spawning. We can see them here. Of course, it's hard to see them in the darkness. I'm gonna just grab myself a potion of night vision. And you can see they have all spawned in like nothing has happened. The next thing I'm going to test is what happens if I put a roof on top of this. So I'm gonna put here just planks. I can still see because I have the night potion, but there is total darkness in here. And I'm gonna unfreeze the game. Tick, freeze, and see what happens. If we will spawn any 123 bats, okay, but I was going to check if we are going to spawn any rabbits. So I'm gonna wait a bit and see if any rabbits show up, which I doubt they will. So I waited here for quite some time and no rabbits have spawned in. But what if I change this roof into glowstone? So glowstone, then the light level goes above 11. And will this affect the spawning of the rabbits? Let's see, yep, we have 84 rabbits. Let's just tick freeze again. I don't know if the bats are causing them to be in smaller numbers, but we have rabbits here and it's the same kind of area. Well, my night vision potion is about to be finished, but you can spawn them indoors without sky access, as long as you have enough light. I'm gonna test this again. I'm gonna kill all the bats. Okay, I've killed all the bats and all the rabbits, and let's just unfreeze the game again. 133. So we can see that the number is a lot smaller than in the open air, but we still get some spawning. Another thing about rabbits I have learned is that they do not only spawn on grass, they also spawn on sand. So let's unfreeze this and wait till they start to spawn. 210 rabbits spawned in on the sand, but I haven't found any other material in the desert where you can spawn rabbits other than grass and sand. So this is how it works with the rabbits, but how does it work with all the other passive mobs? I've made a similar testing platform just in a plains biome, and let's see what happens if I unfreeze the game. We have now 254 passive mobs, all types of them. I didn't put in the fences, I just have the chunk boundaries set up. And we can see that they are spawning in groups. And we have one group here that is on the boundary, but not outside in any sense of it, but all the others are within. So I would say that this is just the same with the other passive mobs. Let's do this test at nighttime. So now it's midnight and there are no mobs. Let's unfreeze the game. And now we have 236 mobs. Just gonna get myself a night potion. And as you can see, they are all spawning all over like before, and none are outside the blue line this time around. So I would say that my testing with rabbits works for all the other passive mobs. I hope this has helped you to understand how the passive mob spawning works in Minecraft. It has at least helped me to understand it and will help me to design my next passive mob farm. Goodbye!